Hey guys, it's Than from Tidal Gardens. Now before I get into Montipora, I want to quickly clarify that my name is not Dan or Stan, it's Than with a T, and it's easy to get that mixed up, so I understand. And Nihao, I had the intention of making this a video about the classification of Montipora, much like I did with zoanthids and Paleothoa a few weeks back, but I quickly hit the eject button on that. The thing is, the taxonomy of Montipora is the second most documented in all of coral biology. There's something like 100 different species on record. I think I know some of the species, but it's very difficult to identify them when you're looking at a tank specimen. Most of the documentation of Montipora is from long ago, and they're described in such a way that just about any species of Monti could fit. There are some obvious observations, like the growth pattern for example, that distinguishes them. Montipora can have wildly different growth patterns like plating forms, encrusting forms, or branching forms, and within those can have completely different textures of their canostrum, such as ridge formation or tubercules that further stratify them. One might ask, why is it that there's so many identified species of a coral like Montipora, but other types of coral literally only have one or two? Part of it is, some species simply are more diverse and speciate to a higher degree than others. Corals like SPS, for example, reproduce quickly, and you can tell in their behavior how quickly they respond to their environment. Changes in light and flow provoke almost immediate change in a colony's color and growth formation. Over time, you can wind up with completely different corals. The other factor is the sheer amount of attention a coral gets. Identification of Acropora and Montipora got a great deal of attention from individuals such as J.E.N. Viren, the author of Corals of the World. It's a situation of being in the right place at the right time. There's not a lot of research and publication going on in coral biology, so it happens in pockets throughout history. Montipora research and classification happened at a time when this sort of effort was more prevalent, so we get a very robust record. Zoanthids in comparison, not so much. I'll use a sports analogy to illustrate this point. LeBron James may be the biggest figure in athletics today and is on pace to earn over $1 billion or so over the course of his playing career. If he was born, say, in the 1970s, he might make as much as a doctor or lawyer and might need a second job to pay the bills in the off-season. If he was born in the 1930s, before there were any real sports leagues, all that basketball talent would go unnoticed. Remember, right place, right time. A coral genus might be an incredible hotbed of biological diversity, but if it's not being actively studied and cataloged, you get a situation like a 1930s LeBron James. In any case, this video is all about taking a really close look at this very popular SPS with some hobby-level labeling mixed in. As much grief as casual marketing naming gets, sometimes it's helpful when the hobby as a whole recognizes the label, such as a Sunset Montipora or a Superman Montipora. Now, it's less helpful when a particular Montipora gets named 10 different things by 10 different people, so you kind of have to take the good with the bad on that front. I'm not so big on the naming, so for those out there that are creative, have fun with it. After all, that's kind of what this hobby is about. However, I'm more about appreciating the little details of the corals that are really easy to miss with the naked eye. For those out there that are unfamiliar with Montipora or SPS in general, SPS stands for small polyp stony coral, so these things are very tiny and it's easy to miss some of the subtle beauty that these creatures have. Most of the video you see here was shot with my newest Canon lens, the MP-E 65, which allows magnification of up to 5 times. It's great to be able to take such a close look because you end up noticing little details you would otherwise miss. Take for example this encrusting Montipora that has been labeled by the hobby as a Mystic Sunset Monti. It's similar to a Superman Montipora, but instead of red polyps on a blue base like a Superman, it has a red base with blue polyps. On closer inspection, however, the polyps themselves are highly distinctive. 5 of the tentacles are blue in color, while the other 7 are brown. It gives each polyp a cool half-circle pattern. On this Montipora confusa, you can see how the tips, where the majority of the growth is taking place, is a neon green color in contrast to the rest of the body. Not all Montipora do this. So it's a cool feature to have a coral that kind of takes on an Astro Pop appearance as it grows. Montipora happened to be one of my favorite SPS because they have such incredible diversity, as we have been talking about this whole video, but they don't quite have the issues with care that a challenging coral like Acropora have. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call them an easy coral, but they don't make me want to pull out my hair either. So if you've never owned an SPS tank, a Montipora might be the perfect starting point. Its care requirements are more in line with what most reef keepers would think of in an SPS tank, like strong, turbulent flow, powerful lights to simulate shallow waters, and crystal clean water with stable water chemistry, in particular with high calcium and alkalinity to promote skeleton growth. Montipora like all of these things, but they don't come with the headaches associated with some of the more delicate species that have little to no tolerance for variation. There are certainly easier types of SPS, such as Seriatopora or bird's nest coral, but their requirements are completely different in at least one respect. For example, they don't like highlight. So in that sense, having a lot of success with Seriatopora doesn't exactly translate to future success with some of the more challenging types. So if you're doing well with Montipora, chances are good that you might transition well to more delicate SPS in the future. Okay, that's pretty much all that I've got on Montipora. I hope you enjoyed the video. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel to get the latest updates. I've included some links to videos on Acropora and Montipora, so you can check those out if you want even more information. Thanks again, guys. Happy reefing.